Welcome, welcome, welcome. Y'all now listening to Damian Murray's podcast, or Dare to Be Different. This may not be called a podcast, but at least a show brought to you by me. And so with that being said, let's kind of jump right into it. Please make sure you like, favorite, and subscribe, and join us as you join this community. One of the reasons why I wanted to start doing this YouTube thing again was because I'm on a new journey myself. Still figuring things out, but realizing that a lot of things have changed since I was a young kid doing YouTube videos. I've done a lot of different things. I've graduated undergrad. I have done 2 masters. I've lived in 2 different countries and now in my 3rd. And so for me, I think this is like a journey, but like I'm constantly searching on how to dare to be different. And I want to talk highly about on this really how to be consistent and see how long I can actually do this for, right? Because like throughout my life, I've like picked up things and like let things go and things of that nature. And so for me, I really want to take the time to, present this YouTube and figure out how long can I do this? How can I upgrade this? And what can I actually talk about on here that is remotely interesting to our audience, right? And I want to do this with you all. So happy for you all to be here and join this community. Welcome everybody here. And so that's basically, I would say, the brief synopsis of why I want to do this channel, but hopefully I'll dig more and more into it as we go along with videos. But that's like pretty much where we're at. Literally a couple of 2 days ago, I literally jumped on a plane from Columbus, Ohio, where I am from, or where I've lived for the past 15 years now, likely, now that I'm 26. And so it's been a journey. And so I hopped on a plane and I came straight to Gothenburg, Sweden, where I'm starting a new job, right? And I actually start this Monday, which is like really nerve-wracking. And that's been on my mind since I got here. Everything's pretty much set up for me to do really well here. So I'm actually really excited. And this is my first time ever in Europe. And so for me, that is kind of daunting, very nerve-wracking, and puts a little bit of a mental block for me because literally, I kid you not, I've been to Asia a ton. I was in China previously for a year, and then also lived in Thailand for a year as well previously. And so those were very different experiences, especially when you think about Sweden as itself as its own entity inside of Europe. And so I am going to document this process of me getting adjusted. And I think I'm going to intro this video with one of the stories of today, because literally, I kid you not, I was so nervous just to get on the bus and go to the bank. And so the bank was near my job. And so I had to figure out how to do the bus system throughout my entire time of being here. But it felt like it was so difficult. And so the public transportation here is absolutely amazing, especially in Gothenburg. So it's really easy to get around. But for me, I always make things so much more difficult because I'm always thinking to myself, what could go wrong? Are people looking at me? I'm black, I'm this, I'm that. And so I always have to tell myself, like, look, bro, nobody really cares about you that much, right? You're not that important. But for some reason, for me, like, I have this mad anxiety that happens whenever I do things like this. But it's also helpful for me because I'm like completely outside of my comfort zone, right? So like that's part of the reason why I came here, is to just feel like I have a challenge every day outside of just work. It's like me just communicating and doing things is also going to be difficult, right? So I get on the bus. I'm like panicking, trying to figure out like, okay, how do I tell this bus to stop? Because I noticed that sometimes the bus drivers don't stop at certain locations if nobody's being picked up. And that was something I did not know. So obviously I figured that out and I was like, okay, like how do I do it? So I'm like frantically texting Google, like, hey, how do you do this? And luckily, even though I have slow service right now because it's a US based carrier as of right now, thank you T-Mobile. I was able to figure out that you have to press a button that's at the top. And I think it's called Stannard. I might be butchering the word, but that's the word for stop. And so I'm like, okay, like let me prepare, do the stop, and let me figure this out. So my stop is coming up, and I'm like, all right, nobody's pressing the button, so I guess I have to press the button. So I go up and try to press the button, and I softly press it. You would have thought like an ant or just like the softest thing, a feather touched it, and it did not go off. So I immediately put my hand back down. I'm like, oh my gosh, I guess I'm not about to be able. I guess I'm not about to be able to get this stopped because I'm not about to put my hand up anymore. And so as you could tell, like I had so much anxiety. It's like people were behind me. I'm sure they were like, why doesn't he just press it harder? Like, what is he doing? So I just let it go. And then by the grace of God, I kid you not, literally another person had pressed the button and it went off and we got off at the stop. And I said to myself, I'm so blessed that somebody else came through because I kid you not, I was like, all right, I guess I'm just have to figure out how to get to the bank using another stop. Just because I didn't want to press it again. And so thinking back on that as I reminisce, because this happened like literally earlier today, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I just put myself through so much stress and all these different things. But like I'm glad I actually went to the office because now I know where it's at. So it makes perfect sense. Like in my mind, okay, now I know how to get there. Now, like when my first day starts, I'm not going to be like running around like a chicken with my head cut off, right? As they say. But at the end of the day, too, it's like, man, like I have to be like a little bit more courageous. Is that the word? Courageous in like the way that I like move. And that took a lot of courage itself because I did this by myself. And yes, everybody's been telling me that like in Sweden, like 80% or 90% of the population speaks English, which I have found they speak English very, very well. But like, given that like nobody knows like outside of like my appearance that I'm not Swedish, most of the times like people speak to me in Swedish first, right? So I have like this very awkward moment of like, hey, all right, I don't know anything you're saying, which is always fun to do. And I've had that experience before, but like here it just feels different because as much, and I'll kind of get into this in another video, as much as people say like, I'm going to obviously compare Sweden to the US a lot because I'm from the US, but like in my mind, like Sweden is very similar to the state of Ohio in some ways, right? Like not with the public transportation, of course, but like with like the people and the surroundings and like just kind of the lifestyle, I would say is pretty similar. The weather is definitely colder here, but at the end of the day, like I don't see that many changes. And so I guess to kind of round this out, I want to tell my viewers and just people in my community, right? Like, and I'll try to have like a story every time, or at least like a little tidbit, right? Because like me being out here is also me daring to be different, but also, right? Every time I'm outside of my comfort zone, I have to push myself in order to develop, right? And I think that's something that we don't think about enough in a way that's going to like really materialize into something. But like that moment where I was like giving up on myself, I should have definitely pressed the button again, right? Because I felt in that moment literally, but like I was willing to give up and just like ride it out. But I was saved by somebody else who was also getting off at the stop, right? But I can't do that, right? So I have to be more courageous and like just do things outside of my comfort zone and continue to push myself, even when I don't feel like it, because it's going to take me a while to get adjusted to living in Sweden, right? And I'm sure this is going to be a beautiful experience, and I know I'm not here for no reason. So for me, this is going to be great. So luckily, I'll get a chance to share my experience with you all, and yeah, so please like, favorite, subscribe, drop some comments, let me know how you feel, and yeah, Damien is out.